Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Rudder, Assistant Vice President for Alumni and Parent Engagement at CMC in class of 2006. It is a pleasure and a privilege to have all of you here for our 8th archival exhibit in honor of CMC's 75th anniversary. Today, we're talking about architecture and public art at CMC. I'm sure all of you have a favorite dormitory or a favorite spot to study on campus, and through the exhibit that our archivist Sean Stanley has put together, you will see some of the origins of that building and probably a lot of information that will surprise you. First, a few things about Zoom before we get going. At the bottom, you'll have a chat button. Go ahead and click that button. It'll open up. You'll see people putting their city, state, country, class years, parent years there. Go ahead and do so if you haven't yet. It's fun to see where everyone is zooming in from. We'll also be taking questions from the chat as well later on. The bottom left, you'll see a mute button. Please keep yourself muted throughout the program. That way we don't hear any background noise. Top right, you'll see a view button, and you can toggle between speaker view or gallery view depending on how you like to view the program. You can choose your own adventure that way. Finally, we are recording this session as we do all of our sessions, posting them on the alumni and parent section of the cmc.edu website. We know many people want to join us but can't for work, family, or other personal reasons. We want to make sure that everyone can participate in the celebration of CMC's 75th anniversary, whether that is today, tomorrow, or into the near future. So with that, I'm going to take us on a little adventure through the CMC 75th anniversary website. Josh, if you would hit record for me, we'll get going. So first, I wanted to make sure everyone knows how to get to the archive. And if you haven't visited the new 75th anniversary website, well, relatively new, it's been around for about 8 months now, go to 75.cmc.edu. Here you'll be able to explore the great work of our faculty during our 75th anniversary celebration. You'll be able to share your own CMC story to add to our archives for now and for the future. Learn how to get involved in some of the awesome events and programs that we have in store for our community. You can shop different merchandise at the CMC Supply Shop, learn about the college's mission and the CMC strategy and the future of our beloved alma mater, or our sons or daughters' alma mater. And for right now, you can also explore our history. So I toggle here on history. I go down to our digital archives preview. The digital archives page opens up. You'll see many different programs that have already occurred. And of course, today we'll focus on architecture and public art at CMC. As I hit visit the preview, a nice preview page. This is the Cliff Notes version of the program. If you don't want to dive into all 6 lengthy, wonderful pages of the program, you can start here to learn a bit more, or just click visit the archive and it'll open up right away. So we'll be going through the archive here. We'll be going page by page, pausing for questions, viewing different photos, and welcoming our guest speakers as well. I am pleased to introduce 3 of our featured speakers today. First, David McGrulian, CMC class of 82, and parent to Catherine, class of 11, who I believe has logged on. Hello, Catherine. David is the chair of our board of trustees and has also led the campus through several master planning processes over the last few years. David, thanks for your leadership at CMC. Thank you for taking the time out of your day today. I also want to introduce Christopher Walker, class of 69. Chris Walker chairs our public art committee on campus. Chris, thank you for taking the time out of your day as well. And we have Emily Meinhardt, CMC class of 10, president of the CMC Alumni Association, and someone who serves both as an ex officio trustee and a member of the Public Art Committee. So thanks to all 3 of you for being here. I'm going to move Chris and Emily out of the spotlight for now and just focus on David. David, I'll let you say a few words before we share screen and go through the first page of the archive.
Well, I do have to start with, this was a momentous day for CMC. If those of you that have checked the website, we have announced the Kravis Department of Integrated Sciences with a $215 million gift from Henry Kravis, coupled with Robert Day's gift for the Robert Day Sciences Center. We have now fully funded our project, $400 million project to create an integrated science department and facility at CMC. This is a lift that no other liberal arts college could pull off. It is a testament to the dedication of our alumni, our students, our faculty, our staff, and certainly to Henry Kravis and Robert Day, who have supported this. So this will be a day that goes down famously. Sean, your successor, will have this in the archives, but a very big day for CMC, and ties in very nicely with our discussion today on architecture. As Evan mentioned, I graduated in 1982, came to the campus in 1978. Not a whole lot changed when I came back as a trustee in the late 90s in 1997. And when Pamela Gann became president of the college, she asked me what was the one thing I wish the college would do. And I said, I wish that the college's facilities, the quality of the college's facilities would match the quality of its program, which was outstanding at the time and continues today. I do think there were certain decisions, though, made early on that have provided a springboard for the college to evolve over time. Some of them were a function of, where we were located and our role as the third Claremont College and where we fit in the map. And some of them were results of the times when we started and where we are today. So I thought it'd be nice to start with the campus plan in the 1940s. Evan, can you put that up? The college did hire a master planner to help. The original acquisitions of lands were bounded by 8th Street and 9th Street and Columbia and Mills. And as you see here, the bones of the campus really are that North Mall, stretching from the west, the big lawn in front of the campus, and then Pitzer Hall through the mid-quad. But early on, those buildings could not be built. Really, we were working out of temporary buildings on this campus. George Benson would enlist students to come move boulders and rocks, and we had very much the native plants on campus. And the first buildings really of any note that were built on the campus really were the dormitories of Green and Appleby Hall. Appleby first and then Green in true CMC nature. We had plans for Appleby and we just reused the plans to do Green, and thought that was such a good idea that we did Boswell and Wolford in the same nature. Now, a small note is that at that time, the chair of the board, the original chair of the board, was a gentleman named Garner Beckett. Garner Beckett was chair of the board of trustees for 18 years, and he decided as president of the American Cement Company to make his donations to the college in cement. And as a result, for those of us that have lived, I'm a Green Hall 4 years person, those of us that have lived, or our students have lived in the North Quad, we know that Garner Beckett donated a lot of cement for those dormitories and other buildings on the campus. But I think the vision, if you look at it here, starting with those North Quad dorms at the bottom of the picture and stretching up along the North Quad to what we now call the North Mall, all the way to Pitzer Hall, and in the distance, that's Honnold Library, is that we at CMC in this master plan decided to create something akin to the University of Virginia lawn. If you're familiar with that, it is an academical village is what they call it. And why is it an academical village? Because you have both residential and academic buildings and buildings where you have student life, like your dining halls and places where you would eat, all along a big lawn at UVA, and for us here along this mall. And so this has always been the heart of CMC, and as you'll see, continues into the future. That expansion in the 50s to build, or at least in the 40s to build this, and then the early 50s to build these North Quad dorms, to build Pitzer Hall, which is down. You'll get to a picture of maybe Pitzer Hall there at some point. The academic buildings of the Claremont College, of Claremont McKenna College. There we go. So in the far right north corner, you have Pitzer Hall, the four prongs of it in the main building for, you either took classes in there or the admissions office was located in there. The president's house, the president lived on campus. George Benson lived on campus. Now, for those of us later, when the Starks with a much larger family could not fit in the president's house, that became our Athenaeum, the first Athenaeum in that upper right-hand corner. But those Pitzer Hall buildings were the key academic heart of the college in the 1940s and 50s, in the 50s predominantly when they were finished off. They also added at that time Adams Hall and Semen Hall, two more additional academic buildings along that mall that flanked it. And then on top of that, the Mckenna Auditorium, because every campus needs to have an auditorium, and then the hub, the student center, essentially in that same area right there that Evan is showing. So this really became the heart of the campus in the 1950s. As the campus expanded, though, in the 50s and the college wanted to grow, it needed to have more residential halls, and it needed a true dining hall, a large dining hall, to frankly supplant Story House. Now, show them where Story House is right now. As the original building on the campus. There we go, right there, craftsman style building. But as you know, the architecture of the North Quad buildings, North Mall buildings, are very simplistic interpretations of a Mediterranean style building with lots of concrete. But Story House, really, that craftsman style was not replicated. We went with this more Spanish style along the North Mall. But as the college started expanding to the south and needing more residential buildings and also needing a dining hall, I don't know if Beckett gave up on giving us a lot of concrete, but those buildings were built in a much more, let's say, austere fashion. Phillips Hall, Burger Hall, what was called Live Oak Hall, and eventually became Benson Hall. Those buildings were really stick frame, stucco, simple, get them up, get them occupied, and then ultimately Beckett Hall, which is right there on the north side. Yes, that we're circling right now, that would be Beckett Hall. Those were all built in the 1950s. The college actually couldn't fundraise enough for them. They had to borrow from their endowment to build these buildings and allow the college to expand at that time. So this was a very, very aggressive growth standpoint. I think at this point, it took the student body with those buildings probably in the nature of about probably 500 to 600 students would be right around that era. As we move out of that, and I'm moving around a little bit, I know with you, Evan, as we move out of that, a lot of this had to come into how are we going to master plan the campus as we expand it? And let's see what we've got here. As we continue to expand the campus, George Benson went about acquiring the land east of Mills Avenue. So do you see Mills Avenue is running north-south, and that's the land that Evan is circling right there. That land was going to allow us to have a major academic building and a major athletic building and all our athletic fields in that location. And as part of a plan that was put into place, Bauer North was built and Bauer South was built. Again, kind of in a it's a neo-Mediterranean style. It's kind of hard to define. Bauer Center, the north side is probably, a little bit more mid-century, but has the tile roof. The south portion, the round portion, was really built around a technology which was reverse projection. The center of Bauer South was built as a place where projectors could be placed and focusing, projecting images and movies and any documentary into the classrooms by using reverse projection. And so it literally could project into, multiple classrooms, into the Pickford Auditorium, I believe also into the Bauer Forum photos. Unfortunately, by the time Bauer was built, within several years, that technology was obsolete, and really the roundness of Bauer, the technological reason for the roundness of Bauer, really kind of fell away at that point. That also had a very unique aspect to it, that in the ground level or the basement, it also housed our ROTC program, and that faces to the south. And some of you have been down there. They have their shooting range, but to this day, our proud location of the ROTC program is in the base of Bauer. The other buildings to note that were built as part of this was the towers. They always start, every dorm at Claremont, if it doesn't have a donor, starts as Claremont Hall. But Fawcett and Claremont Hall, which you see here in this picture, but eventually became Owen Hall when a donor was found for those. Those were the tallest buildings in Claremont by a long shot, and will never be replicated in Claremont, because I think Jack Silvertongue got those through. Jack Stark Silvertongue got those through, but maybe they allowed us to build Stark Hall next to it in later years. But those buildings are very unique and will never be replicated in the Claremont colleges. They were designed by co-architects, as was the Stark building, which was a modern interpretation of the tower building. The other building that is unique and probably took us in a little bit different direction is Marks Hall. If you can circle that at the south end there. Marks Hall, in large part, is a mid-century modern building. David Marks gave the college money. This was not one we needed to borrow from the endowment to build. But beautiful north-facing views on that building up what we called the South Quad, but now is called the Mid Quad, and through the campus. But again, you can see the strength of the academical village running all the way from Pitzer Hall, all the way down the North Mall, through the North Quad to Bauer Center. And this was a defining element of the campus. Another defining element is Parents Field, which parents donated money for that field to be built. Originally, there were shrubs on Green Beach, but now obviously grass much later. And that was considered the heart of the campus. It is typical to have a very large green in the middle of a liberal arts college in the East, but it's not used for the purpose of Parents Field, which is athletic and recreational. Usually it's just something to cross, a lot of crisscrosses across the campus green. Here, this is at CMC, it's a very functional place for whether it's athletic competitions, whether it's intramural programs, whether it's club sports, whether it's parties or events. I understand that Parents Weekend this past weekend was held, and we've had numerous celebrations. Pirate Party is held out there. So it will continue to be it has always been and will continue to be a very important part of the CMC campus. There have been additional buildings added since then, but I think it's important to kind of go to the first master plan really done, the second master plan after the Allison and Ribal plan really isn't this one. So I'm going to make a little complaint on this one. This document from 1985 or early 1980s, but it was for 85, really is called a master plan, but really isn't. It at the time dedicated about a page to master planning, true real estate, how the campus is going to be evolving, master planning. It talks a lot about, it's really a strategic plan. It talks about how the faculty evolve, how the student body will evolve, how the curriculum will evolve, which is a great document. And CMC does an updated strategic plan. We just completed one every 10 years or so, but probably true to CMC's focus on program rather than the facilities. It really didn't talk about where buildings should go, what style they should be, what our beliefs and principles should be in building out a master plan. And as a result, buildings kind of got tossed to wherever they thought they should go. So, you know, the Athenaeum was plopped on the lawn in to the northwest of Collins. Headlight Center, which has been its architectural has been affectionately described as a 15th century Spanish jail, was plopped between Wolford and Mckenna Auditorium. And I think, you know, that experience of buildings kind of just being placed in these various locations and saying there's something we're missing as far as how the campus is going to evolve really led to an effort to create an actual master plan, a true master plan for the campus. It was frankly, at the end of the day, dictated by the city of Claremont, because when we went in for approvals for the Kravis Center, which was going to replace Pitzer Hall, the old Athenaeum President's House, the city said, this is a great building, but you need to have a master plan on file. And so while they allowed us to take the Kravis Center through an approval process, this really led to do a very significant master plan for the campus on how it evolved. And that document is attached as part of this archive. And I really welcome you to take a look at it. It really shows how the campus will evolve over time, involved a multitude of constituencies contributing their ideas. It really kind of focused on the type of architecture, the type of feel, how we're going to protect our native trees, how our hardscape and landscape should look. It's based on some master plan beliefs and principles that talk about the things that are truly important in the built environment at Claremont McKenna College. And it's been a guiding document as we've done the Kravis Center, as we've thought about the replacement of Ducey Gymnasium with Roberts Pavilion. Really a critical document. It also talks very in depth about sustainability and how do we build a sustainable campus? How do we create the energy efficiency and how do we reach our goals of carbon neutrality? How are we good stewards of water in an area that is a desert and is constantly being challenged by drought? So one good example is we had a lot of trees that needed a lot of water, but couldn't get a lot of water, so they were having some challenges. Well, guess what? The native trees that are there, oaks and sycamores, are the best suited for our climate. And we've made a concerted effort in the last 10 years to remove the non-native trees so our oaks and sycamores can thrive. And guess what? Given their size and their prominence, they don't need watering. They need careful trimming and treatment to make sure that they stay vital. And as a result, in this past windstorm, we didn't lose any of our big oaks. We didn't lose any of our big sycamores. And those of you that know how the Claremont community was affected by them, a lot of those historical trees, heritage trees, we would call them, were lost in that time. And so I think it's been critical for us to focus on how do we bring the outside environment into these buildings? How do we create the environment that our students, faculty, and staff love to interact within? And you see some of that starting to evolve from the Kravis Center through the North Mall and will continue over time. So Evan, that's a long soliloquy on my part. Do you want to prompt anything? What would you like me to touch on in addition to that?
That was a fantastic overview of the CMC master plan, and I actually think we had a couple of people comment on our North Quad dormitories. One from Van Webster, class of '67, who said those dorms were actually replicated on the campus of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I thought that was just very interesting. Otherwise, and Matt commented that the 1985 plan is more of a strategic plan as opposed to a master plan. So he agrees with you there.
It says the king of the strategic planning at CMC, Matt Bibbins. And you know, it's interesting, when we did do the master plan charrettes in, what year was it, Matt? When did we do the charrettes?
2009, 10.
9/10.
Yeah.
We gave people green dots and red dots to put what they liked, and yellow dots, what they liked and didn't like on our campus. What was covered in green dots were those North Quad dorms. And being somebody who lived in Green for 4 years, you know, we thought, well, you know, they're concrete and they don't have all the amenities, and you know, there's only so much you can do with them. Oh my God, those are beloved at CMC, and not a surprise. Probably the built environment helps, and the fact that they're along our North Mall and Academical Village. But we would expect those to be a central part of the CMC campus for a long time to go. Adams Hall, Semen Hall, very central to who we are. And we want people to come back to our campus and recognize it. Now, in large part, it'll be because the way the malls are laid out and the way they feel. We've gone through extensive renovation of the mid-quad dorms about 7-8 years ago to add some of the amenities that were lacking in the 1950s, like air conditioning and insulation. and shower doors and the like. So we've gussied those up to the tune of about $40 million on all of the mid-quad dorms about 7-8 years ago, and those have become, very popular because of those renovations. And that has been part and parcel of what we've done across the campus. Is when we have a building, a beloved building, and we want to keep it, we want to renovate it. So, right here are pictures of the old Athenaeum, which many of us, the president's house, which Chris Walker was mentioning, you would come to dinner with the president at the end of your time at CMC. And I would go to for Athenaeum dinners. They weren't nearly the size of Athenaeum dinners in the current Athenaeum. But and this is a great picture. This was the dining room. And this was what a large Athenaeum dinner would be like in the president's house. So we just called it the Ath. But at the end of the day, even the new Athenaeum, which was built, I think, mid-'80s or so, we went through and made a major renovation, adding technology, making the space more indoor-outdoor space, really sprucing up the Athenaeum because it is architecturally a very interesting building. It was designed by Quincy Jones, who also did, I think, the Mariners Chapel, and also did Huntley Bookstore. So we have had noted architects on our campus, and we look to kind of retain the feel and the bones that those architects brought onto our campus.
David, we move on to our academic and administration buildings. This is
sure.
The next page.
Yeah, and I've touched on some of this. I mean, clearly Pitzer Hall was an important academic heart of the campus. On this first floor of the main building to the west, you had the admissions office and faculty offices within the building. The wings had classrooms, and those were they weren't air conditioned. So if you were in one of those on a hot afternoon, it was a little bit hot. But the colonnade was an important part of the campus, and one of the unique features of them, they're all painted. The ceilings are painted blue. So when we went back and renovated some of these buildings, we retained the blue painting on the ceilings of them. But very functional, a very important heart of the campus. But when the Kravis Center needed to be built and would, I think it's 10 times the size of the Pitzer buildings, really allowed us to replace that with something equally, spectacular and iconic for the CMC campus. The Semen Hall I touched on, Adams Hall I touched on. We continue to renovate those and keep them. Baxter Science Center, which was our first joint science location of joint science with Scripps. It then became health services was in there. We used to call it Quackster when I was a student because you didn't really want to go to student health services for much of anything. But joint sciences moved a couple of times until it came to its final home, the Keck Sciences Center. And then I touched on the Bauer Center, which was a spectacularly forward-thinking building, but locked in a particular technology as it relates to the south portion of the building, has pie-shaped classrooms. And so that building is where the president's office is in the north. The Crocker Reading Room, which we have renovated, is very well used and an important administrative heart of the building. And then the Keck Science Building, we've touched on that. Oh, okay. So now my heart's beating fast. That was a picture of the boardroom in the Bauer Center. The furniture in there is by Sam Maloof. This is the largest table that Sam Maloof, an American icon in furniture making, ever created. He did it for CMC. Thankfully, they're located in Overchino, and they come in and refinish this every 10 years or so. We have a number of Maloof pieces around the campus, round tables, benches. Unfortunately, I think one or two have disappeared. So we keep good tabs on all the other Maloof pieces we have in the college. And then this is the founder's patio with the sculptures of the presidents of Claremont Mckenna College. You do have a choice as a president if you do not want a bust made of you. Pamela Gann chose a portrait instead that hangs in Bauer Center. I touched on the Keck Science Center, which was built just north of Boswell and Wolford Hall, mostly Wolford Hall. Well, no, both really. And again, it holds the joint science program of Scripps, Pitzer, and Claremont McKenna College. And then Roberts North and South. George Roberts gave us a gift. This houses a number of our various departments and classrooms. And it also was the first time we ever daylighted a basement. You see that well that drops down. We started making use of basement space, creating patios down there. This was significantly enhanced with the building of the Kravis Center. We were able to triple the size of those patios and frankly make them a lot more usable than they were before. They really were light wells prior to that. But here's a good example of a spectacular patio that gets a lot of use, and particularly during COVID. Children's School was an interesting addition, preschool program, and then the Claremont Boulevard building is where our advancement office is, and been a key center for alumni and parent relations also in our public affairs department. Kravis Center was the first iconic building that we did. To Matt Bibbin's credit, he ran a competition that Henry Kravis wanted among various architects. We invited Norman Foster, Machado and Silvetti, and Raphael Vignoli. At the end of the day, Raphael Vignoli won the bid. And did a spectacular job. That's Raphael in all black. You can always tell the architects are always in all black. But this is the beginning of the demolition of Pitzer Hall, and it really was Henry's vision, as it is kind of bookending it, talking about his vision with the building and now his vision with the science program to do those. So here are more photos. It really, as you know, the Kravis Center, from a physical standpoint, transformed the campus. Winner of numerous awards, incredibly energy efficient, holds 5 of our research institutes, holds our admissions office, over 40 faculty offices, I think 10 classrooms, and then has this iconic living room, which is the only structural structure west of the Mississippi. To pull that off in an earthquake zone is quite difficult, and the firm out of Germany, Gartner, did the work on this. And Steve Crown of the Crown family, who helped build Millennial Park in Chicago, helped us with the idea of the reflecting pool. If you're familiar with the fountain in Millennial Park in Chicago that reflects the visuals of the fountain with the faces with the water coming out. Steve helped convince us that a Masabi black 1-inch worth of water on it, reflecting pool, would make this even more iconic, and that it has. It is definitely the money shot at CMC. And last but not least, given her vision and how we move forward, the board named the grass area in the middle of the Kravis Center, the GAN Quadrangle. And as you know, parent events are held there, alumni events are held there, classes are held out there. So it's a very active green space on our campus.
Great, thank you, David. As I move over to residential buildings, we did have a question come in asking you to comment if any of the buildings we're going over, aside from Bauer Center, are at the end of their useful life.
Well, I'd say Bauer, it's probably Bauer Center's. Bauer Center is at the end of its useful life. And so that will be something in time that will be demolished. As we're working on our future master plan, we would expect the Integrated Sciences building will go where the baseball field is currently, and that North Mall will stretch from the Kravis Center all the way to the Integrated Sciences building. So at some time in the not too distant future, we would need to raise the money for the buildings that would replace the Bauer Center. We're kind of focused on getting Integrated Sciences done, but that would come down. I would imagine with extreme prejudice, at some point, Headlight will come down. And in our master plan, there's an expectation that some sort of academical student life building would take the place of the Emmett Student Center, the hub. A new hub would be built, a new auditorium would be built, and a new student life building would be built on that location in time. So those are the ones that come to mind immediately. In time, I would imagine we would need to renew or expand or replace Collins Dining Hall, but it really isn't an ideal location. So that's probably the biggest challenge. And then down the road, we would probably renew or replace the student apartments. They're built like commercial apartments and would need extensive work. We just finished some cosmetic work about 4 years ago, but at some point those would be redone.
Great. Here's the residential page, and I know you've already spoken to some of these buildings. And we are
Story
running
house,
a little bit behind, so
Yeah.
feel free to jump around here, David, as you see.
Yeah, I think, Story House I've talked about. There's others that could add more stories about Story House. Appleby Hall in the North Quad buildings we've talked about, so I think we've covered that effectively. They are beloved. I've talked about the Mid Quad and the tower, so I think I've covered kind of everything in the residential section, and I would expect the residential to expand over time, but towards the east. Not tearing down these buildings. Crown Hall was beloved. The renovation of Benson and Berger allowed us to build Claremont Hall in between. So with a big kitchen, and so we really upgraded that rather significantly in that area.
I'll open this one up. This is the newest edition, and if you haven't been on campus in a few years, the combining of Berger and Benson in a way would be very, very different.
Yeah, and so the quality of the work is consistent through Berger, Benson, and now Claremont Hall. We have a huge lounge within there that those share, and a courtyard that they share that gets a lot of use. There's a kitchen a demonstration kitchen, but the students can all use it, and so it's really a delightful space. This summer, we're hoping to redo the hardscape and landscape in the South Quad, and I'll let Chris talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. Okay, let's move on. I've talked about Mckenna Auditorium, used for an assortment of different events. The Emmett Student Center, we constantly renovate the hub for new student needs. We did an update of it about a couple of years ago, and it exploded in use. So it gets tired, and then we spend, frankly, not a lot of money on it, and then it explodes in use. And in the last 2-3 years, it explodes in use. Go ahead, Matt.
David, I would just challenge you on that one point. I went to CMC, just so everyone knows, graduated in '92, and the Emmett hub area was a constant source of, attempted fixes that didn't really kind of work until we did the North Mall project.
That's fair.
Go back to that photo, Evan. That North Mall project enabled us to extend that patio out, as you see there, so it can accommodate a lot more people, and it's the actual elevation change. The North Mall in Lamson Plaza is now higher than it was originally. So there's a much more natural transition there. And that has been an incredibly successful change just through that patio work there. And it's really transformed the space, like you said, in terms of its use. Yeah. The other thing, on a similar thing, I would just note is the mid-quad dorms always fell to the bottom since I've been at the college in terms of priority for students to live there, except for those looking for priority singles or being in Beckett to be close to Collins. This renovation project we just completed completely transformed those spaces such that, as David mentioned, Phillips, the year after they came back online, Phillips drew out first in room draw, which is just incredible for those of you who know what the mid-quad was like from room draw perspective.
Yeah, Matt's absolutely, I'm probably being a little too gracious to the previous iterations. Like I said, the campus facilities was not a priority prior to probably like the last 15 years as far as really focusing on these matters. And a lot of credit goes to Matt and the team at CMC that's really paid attention. Dean of students working very closely with Matt, faculty, dean of faculty working very closely with Matt to make this sure this all works. So Collins Dining Hall, we've talked about. We are committed at CMC to having a single dining hall. A lot of colleges have, 2 or 3 dining halls of our size. We want to have a single dining hall. We want to bring everybody in together. We've done various renovations. At some point, we're going to have to expand it and figure out how to do that. But it is the dining heartbeat of CMC. So very important. There was a big bookstore on campus. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because it didn't get a lot of use. And then Story House, clearly for more recent graduates, has been a place where you go pick up your mail. The Headlight Center, I already commented on that. And then the Miriam Minor Cook Athenaeum has really been a spectacular facility, really allowed us to expand the programming with the Athenaeum. will continue to evolve and expand over time, but is now a wonderful indoor-outdoor space. And again, the architect Quincy Jones, rather noted here in Los Angeles. So these are, so many of you have been in it, but they did the group IA Architects. Matt, give me the name.
That's it.
Yeah, IA Architects did the renovation of this energy efficient, nano walls, indoor, outdoor. All of you have been happen. Those chairs were designed specifically for the Athenaeum, for anybody bringing a backpack or a purse or something else and being able to sling it over those arms, but much more comfortable than the old Athenaeum chairs. Let's put
Designed
it
by
that way.
David, just to note,
yeah, well,
designed by David.
I have to sit in those for hours on it. So there was a vested interest in that. So a great picture of Donald McKenna, Mary Dell Pritzloff, Jill Stark, Marion Minor Cook, and Jack Stark.
And actually, that's Bernice McKenna standing next to Donald.
Oh, that is okay. I'm sorry. Looked like, does she look like Mary Dell? Maybe Mary Dell's taller. Okay. And this the founding director of the Athenaeum, Jill Stark, bust is in there. What else would you like me to touch on?
I think
relative
we can go.
to
There's a lot of
student
plazas and grounds here. Maybe a brief comment, David, on open space.
Yeah, I mean, it's critical on our campus. I mean, our students want to be outside and our faculty want to be outside. They want to teach, they want to play, they want to do everything outside. So we're very cognizant of creating either big spaces like parents fee and protecting them, or creating lots of little outdoor spaces where people can meet and interact. You know, we can't cover it all in grass. We live in a desert, so there are areas that, you know, are not going to have, they're going to have wood chips and various other ways to approach it. But our students want to be outdoors. Like when we redid the fountain in Flamson Plaza, we redid it as a pool because our students will sit. That's the old fountain. They'd still sit in that, but this new one's a little nicer to sit in. And so, you know, we've really made an effort to make these spaces very, very attractive to our students to hang out on. And Matt made the point on the hub patio. I mean, it's tough to find a chair out on that outdoor patio on a nice day. And so I think these are really critical. The athletic facilities have always been a key component of a Claremont McKenna life, whether you're involved in recreation, intramurals, or intercollegiate athletics. We've always had the benefit of having a wonderful outdoor environment, parents' field. But, in time we had to build our own gymnasium, Ducey Gymnasium, the Voigt Pool. Those programs, again, were outstanding. And this gave us an opportunity to do so. And in addition, George Benson having the foresight to buy all the land east of Mills from Pomona to Claremont Boulevard gave us the ability to put RC Field in, the baseball field in, Pritzloff Field, the soccer field in, the Athena softball field, the Burns Stadium, and the Axelrod pool are all east. It ultimately, though, gave us the opportunity to build the most spectacular athletic fitness recreation center in Division III, the Roberts Pavilion, which really takes facilities to a whole another level. And this really became, as is now, as much a student center as it is an athletic fitness and recreation center. Gets used for a multitude of different events. Is beloved by our student body and those of Scripps and Harvey Mudd that are allowed to use it. And also, frankly, now we allow with COVID and the shutdown of the Pomona gym for renovation, we have Pomona and Pitzer students using it also. So it gets a lot of use. Right now, the Pomona Pitzer teams are playing their games there as their gym's being renovated. They allowed us to use their gym when we were shut down for a couple of years due to the construction of Roberts Pavilion. But just again, a truly spectacular facility in every way. And I think not only helps us obviously recruit student athletes, but also allows us with the fitness consciousness of our student body to have students feel that body, mind, and spirit will be cared for at Claremont McKenna College. So very thrilled about that particular facility. So I've been talking far too long.
David, quick question for you. I didn't see any pictures of the Walker graduation pavilion. What happened to that?
Yes, that Walker graduation pavilion in Badgley Gardens. So those of you that graduated in Badgley Gardens walked across the Walker graduation pavilion. That got changed into a Walker Courtyard, which is within Crown Hall. But we got to find something else to do with that too, Chris. So that is now one of the courtyards in Crown Hall, which
I
is
just
plopped
had to
right
wind you
on
up
top
on
of
that one.
right on top of it.
It wasn't great architecture anyway.
No, well, and we outgrew that area too. I mean, our student body it was too large to graduate in Badgley Gardens any longer. So we've moved off to Pritzlaff Field in a tent. So I'm done, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Emily. As an intro, Chris has been the brainchild, the driver of CMC adopting a public art approach, knowing that public art is key to a built environment. We've worked very closely to make sure our buildings and our grounds accept these pieces. And Chris it's been his brainchild, his love, and we've done just amazing things thanks to Chris Walker. So I turn it over to Chris and Emily.
Very kind of you, David. I just want to say that we are very fortunate that we didn't see a lot of art in any of the landscape pictures. So we actually, 10 years ago, started with a blank canvas, and we've made some changes. We'll be talking about that a little bit. Like most things at CMC, I'd like to think over the past decade, we've punched above our weight with the goals and accomplishments of the Public Art Committee, which populated with trustees, students, and staff. We've followed an intentional program of introducing important contemporary art to the campus. And for those who are curious, no expense to the CMC operating budget. It's all been funded generously by donors. So there had been some questions of whether that would hit the purse of the college, and it has not. In the next several minutes, the focus will largely be on the sculptural works that now grace the CMC campus. Important contemporary work can also be viewed in the rooms and hallways at the Ath and Kravis building, the most important of which is Mary Weatherford, found in the S. Eggert dining room, which you'll see on the screen right now. In most cases, the Public Art Committee has been successful in acquiring the work of a diverse group of living artists, an important goal, if no other reason than support their respective practices. When commissioning new work, our goal is to have the artist visit the campus to gain an insight into our residential campus to better integrate his or her ideas into the artwork to be made, also with a specific location in mind for where the work will be sited. The committee has done its best to maintain the highest of standards in artists and work selection. Hopefully you will see. Consistent with the Open Academy, good contemporary art can and should provoke thoughts and feelings. Most important is our hope that CMC's collection of contemporary art will actively engage our students and the community at large to think and consider what the artists represented. Monographs of each major work are also printed, and the artists are invited on campus to speak at the Ath to our students. The committee owes a great debt of gratitude to the immediate past chair, Harry McMahon, who first raised the idea of a formal art program in 2012, followed by current board chair, David, and President Chodosh for their leadership and energized support that's allowed our committee to begin realizing our campus ambitions. So that's, David, all the sucking up you're going to get from me today. Also, I want to introduce my friend and fellow member of the committee, Emily Meinhardt, who will follow me discussing two of the major sculptures found on campus today. With that, I will begin with the Mary Weatherford, which you now see. It is an installation that came out of an artist in residence program in 2015, where Mary Weatherford taught 5-session half-credit courses, and basically, as an artist, began work on a site-specific work. And the title of this is From the Mountain to the Sea. it to me it evokes where Claremont was, because when I first arrived with in an era without air conditioning and Saturday 8 a.m. classes, the idea of living between Mount Baldy and the ocean was very appealing to me in my choice in coming to the college in the first place. So calling it from the mountain to the sea actually speaks well to kind of what I thought of Claremont and my choice back then. But we underwrote it. We passed the hat among the board trustees on the committee, and we managed to buy it. And it was our sensational first artwork that we brought on board for the college. And I think at night you can walk by and see the lights. During the day, it's just an enormously beautiful piece. And using neon was something new that Mary Weatherford, no one had used it before in the art world. And so that inclusion really was basically a launching pad for Mary Weatherford's second career. She's already a well-known artist, but today her work is in every major collection at MoMA, at MoCA. You can name your museum and Mary's represented somewhere, and we're lucky enough to have a major work of hers at CMC. The mural is about 9 3/4 feet high and 19.5 feet wide. It's just a beautiful piece, and I like, from my own preference, is seeing at night and walking by the Athenaeum and seeing people there. It's just lovely. I think Mary in particular really enjoyed dining room paintings, because you can spend a length of time, and it's unlike a museum because you actually spend time with it. You can think about it and enjoy it. So I'll take any questions. Well, I'll wait till the end to take questions, but the next two installations, I think Emily will cover.
Thank you, Chris. So this is one of the second piece of the public art program. So this is a piece by Chris Burden, who worked in performance initially in his career, as well as sculpture, performance art. So Chris Burden attended Pomona College as an undergrad, and there's a piece of his on their campus as well. What you probably recognize parts of this work from is a very iconic piece at LACMA called Urban Light. So these are found and restored streetlights from various places in Southern California. And what I think is so interesting about this piece, I've worked in museums and galleries, and this piece is no different than others like it, but people always have this question of it, when it's elevated to fine art, are you allowed to touch it? Are you allowed to sit on it? And the answer is yes, definitely. And so this is meant to be something to interact with and to be used by students and visitors. So I just, it never ceases to amaze me that, and actually delight that that's the question, and to be able to give that response of yes, please do. So he was known for more radical performance pieces. So the most radical one is one which he was actually shot by a studio assistant. So this would be quite tame in his later career. But he had a massive property where he could house and manipulate all of these objects that he found in Southern California as well. So I think that this is a great piece to involve that kind of interaction on campus.
One comment I would like to make about it, I think the students use this for speed dating, if I understand it correctly.
That's right, I've heard that as well. I think that would make the artist really happy to know that it was used for something like that. So this is a piece by Ellsworth Kelly, and it's right outside of Collins. Ellsworth Kelly was primarily known for color field paintings and minimalism, and then later in his career he focused more on sculpture. So this piece originally was proposed to be about 20 feet tall. That was the size of his other totems. That's what this series is called. And when the artist saw it in context, he said, no, that is much too small. We have to make it much, much larger. The other things I think are interesting about this piece is that the curve that you see is actually part of, it's an arc, which means it's actually part of a circle. So that's kind of a math nerd fact if you're looking at the manufacturing process of this. But what these pieces, I think, invite us to do, the Totems by Ellsworth Kelly, is really to kind of play with flat planes and flat space and negative space. So because it's so white and the background behind it is this like rich, three-dimensional, kind of complex background, it's inviting you to think about where is it, what's behind it, what's around it, what could you imagine in its place. So that, again, that form of interactivity, that sculpture lens as opposed to painting, I think makes these pieces really unique.
Two quick comments about that for those of us older people. It evokes a little bit of Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. But more than anything else, this may have been the last piece of art that Ellsworth Kelly designed before he passed away. So to be able to have this on campus is truly amazing. This is one of my favorite pieces by a female artist by the name of Carol Bevay, who's been unique talent. For a woman to be working in steel is breaking down the typical of that only men work in steel, but I call this a constellation. Other people call it other things, but few quick words about Carol. This was the first commissioning process that the Public Art Committee went through, where we had 4 artists come to campus and walk the campus and then submit their ideas of what they wanted to do and where they wanted to do it. And Carol, by and large, was easily the one to commission. And she is one of the great contemporary artists today working. She had a commission of 4 sculptures at the Metropolitan Art, in New York City. And she's been in prominent exhibitions at the Venice Biennale, the Nasher Sculpture Gallery, and museums worldwide, including the Whitney and and MoMA. As I said, I like the fact that Carol bashed the stereotypical male working in steel, but unique to hers, she works. There's a lightness that contradicts the steel and the very weight and bulk. Carol has the ability to make heavy things light and simple, sculpts at scale and in the round. As sculptures are formed, artists can interfere and adjust as things are engineered. Scrap metal and stainless steel that she can massage, twist, and contort. Materials are pushed to their extremes. And like many of contemporary artists today, much of the things they work with are found in alleyways, in scrap yards, and it's repurposing in the extreme. So Carol came to campus in 2018, and she identified the space where the exhibition is today. It's a very complicated thing. It has steel combined with well, there are 4 pieces, and I'll go over what they are. The Enigma is the first piece, which is the most recent one she's made. It's site-specific and made in 2019 from steel plates, such as you see covering potholes, construction sites, and she manipulates. And these pieces are enveloped or cradled by a matte orange steel tube, where the paint is so pure against the plates, along with a pristine, shiny black base. It comes together, it brings together all 3 elements that's so fascinating. It throws you off balance. Carol was specific that this particular artwork was to be cited to obtain the most exposure in the afternoon sun. Four Loops, which is on the top right-hand side. It's actually the most popular where people take photos. So the Four Loops, I was saying, is the most popular among the student body for photographs. Use of skateboards around the area is a bit of a challenge for our director of public art to keep everything in good nick. So I think the work all sings together. It makes the space interactive, a powerful body of work. The two final two pieces, Cretaceous and Lingham, which are in the center and up the upper left hand, there are large sculptures of petrified wood and steel beams. So it's it has a history of it's combining or contrasting both works. One, there's a continuance of time over a period of time. I don't do them justice with my words, but they deserve as much attention as the other two works. And with that, I think I am finished. As you can see, it's a place where people love to take photographs. People from inside Collins Hall can see it well. The reflection in the dining hall windows was a popular feature for Carol Bevay when she thought about siding it. But it's a unique piece, and the college, I think that area has a very strong, has a lot of people walking through it, and I'm very proud of that. So we have other things in the works. The mid-quad, there is a work by a scripts artist, Pay White, that's currently sitting in an auditorium or in a warehouse, local warehouse, in preparation of future work to be done to prepare for its installment. And we more recently, next April, there'll be installation of behind red sculpture of benches that will go by Adams Hall. And I think that area will be much more interesting to be around and to be able to sit on one of the sculptures. Artists today definitely like to have their work used in practical ways and also have an artistic flair to them. So we have tried to make some work that highlights the campus in important ways and give students something to consider that challenges their minds. With that, I'm happy to take any questions. I'm certain Emily would be too.
Thank you, Chris and Emily. And I apologize. I think I was sharing screen and I may have frozen. So I was showing the photos of the Bevay pieces. So I hope everyone was able to see them.
Yeah.
Chris and Emily, hopefully you'll also consider something over Alumni Weekend. I think a public art tour is certainly in order, and seeing these up close and personal. So thank you.
Yeah.
And David, thank you for your time as well. We've hit 5:05. I know some of you may need to leave. And if so, thank you for your attendance. We hope to see you at the next program. And our guests have agreed to stay a little bit longer and answer any specific questions. So thank you to Chris, David, and Emily for sticking around a bit longer. So there was a question here about the archery range, David, of course, we used to have that Easton range just east of campus. Do we have any thoughts on a future archery range?
Yeah, I mean, it could very easily be woven in. I don't know that it's public knowledge, but CMC has acquired all 75 acres in the pit, as we all affectionately know it. So we will be transitioning large parts of that to athletic fields and athletic uses, and certainly an archery range could become part of that. So you can do a lot with 75 acres. So more to come on that. We're in the process of updating the master plan, both essentially for all the land holdings that CMC has from Mills Avenue going east. And that means now going across Claremont Boulevard and that whole 75 acres bounded by Claremont Boulevard, Foothill Boulevard, Monte Vista, and Arrowroot. Our campus will double in size with that acquisition, and it has been completed. We had to acquire it from Claremont Colleges, from Pitzer, from Pomona, but we just got it all done a couple of months ago.
There might be a part 2 to art and architecture at CMC. We might do
lots of
future
them.
architecture at CMC.
Yeah.
Before too long.
And I will note that the new integrated sciences, Robert Day Sciences Center, is going to have some very important pieces of art. We have some spaces picked out, plazas, atriums. So Chris and Emily are going to be very busy over the next several years.
And for Chris and Emily, we had a question come in. What are some artists or some pieces you would like to see on the CMC campus?
Emily?
I have not dared to dream at that scale. So I'm going to defer to Chris, who is a more frequent attendee of the fairs.
Well, I have a few favorite artists that I know well, and one of my joys with art is actually talking to artists because they have such a unique view of the world, and they find a way to express themselves in unique ways. Mark Bradford would be somebody that I would love to see his work on the campus at some time. He has some work at UC San Diego, a sculpture, in fact. He's a great artist. I like I think that some of the great artists today working, I like George Kondo, who does sculptures that are at the Metropolitan, as well as paintings. I would love to see some John Baldessari work on the walls at some point. But as far as sculpture goes, I think that we have done as well as possible, and there are some good people that I hope to look at the Venice Biennale this summer that are potential for commissions. We definitely, Kimberly helped me out, the Egyptian artist that we've talked about doing a commission for us.
Got it, Amir.
Yeah, she is, I've seen her work, I love her work. And I think possibly for the new Integrated Science Center, she could do something outstanding. Kimberly, you have some artists you'd like to pose?
I think I would just say that we are looking to expand the collection and diversify it beyond gender. And that's really my focus right now, is to continue to add to the diversity of our campus. And so I'm focusing on that. There are a lot of artists that we can look towards to do that. And that's where I'm supporting the subcommittee. But if anyone ever wants to suggest anyone, you feel free to reach out to me. It's kshiring@cmc.edu, or if you have any questions that you want to follow up with, I can forward those to Christopher or Emily.
Thank you, Kimberly. Kimberly is our Director of Public Art, amongst other things at CMC. Good to see you, Kimberly. And there are some suggestions in the chat as well, Kimberly. Chris, someone pulled up Carol Bevay's Wikipedia page and notes that her work at CMC is not on that page. I'm not sure how we can make that happen, but hopefully we can. If anyone knows how to influence Wikipedia, you just send them our way. And then we did have, in true CMC fashion, David, a CMC alumnus who doesn't live nearby is asking, how long will it take to go from Kravis to the Integrated Science Center on foot?
You know, it's funny. People complain about how far they have to walk on the CMC campus. And it's like, have you ever been to UCLA? So, you know, my guess is it's probably a 10-minute walk, and one of the more beautiful 10-minute walks you will ever take, with all the public art and the beautiful buildings and spectacular trees that are along the way. One thing I'll also note, Matt's had a huge influence is this, is that we have a fantastic lighting designer that's been working with us since the Kravis Center on the entire campus. So the campus at night is spectacular. And we will continue with that lighting designer who will be doing, did the Roberts Pavilion, will do the Kravis Center, and does all the site lighting. We focus very much on lighting our big spectacular trees at night, uplighting them, and using that ambient light to light the campus. So I think the stroll across our campus, whether you're walking or on a skateboard or I don't know if scooters are allowed, but certainly a skateboard or a bike is going to be wonderful from the Kravis Center to the Robert Day Sciences Center.
Yeah, I'd say that David has a passion for the campus that's unrivaled, that it is his own canvas, it's his own work of art, and we have much to thank David for as far as where getting us to where we are today. So I would think that, I don't know, that David will always love the campus. Not as much as
Yeah,
Margaret, but
Yeah.
close second.
Well, with
I
that,
have Matt as
I
my-
know it's, go ahead, David.
The
No,
campus
I
is
have
his
Matt and
mistress.
Kimberly as my sidekicks too in all of this, and it's been amazing and just great support from alumni and students and feedback and everything else. So we're constantly listening, constantly evolving. Big project this summer, like I said, will be the South Quad, the Mid Quad with that work. So that'll be done this summer. We'd like to do some work in front of Collins, and if we can, we'll do work in front of the North Quad dorms. It probably hasn't been touched in, what do you think, John? 60 years? The North Quad has been touched in 60 years. So it's due for a little refreshing. So we're looking to potentially be able to pull those off this summer.
Great. Well, David and Christopher, thank you so much for your time today. Emily had to log off and jump on another call, but thanks to Emily and those behind the scenes too, our archivist Sean Stanley, Kimberly Shiring, Matt Bivens, John Ferranda, and many others who were influential in putting this program and many other programs together as well. So David, thanks for your time. Thanks to all of you. I will remove the spotlights. Feel free to unmute, say hello, say goodbye. Thanks everyone. We look forward to seeing you at our next program. Have a good night.